Welcome back to another part of this F1 25 My Team career mode. This is part number 3 today. Last time out, we had a very good episode with a historic moment for the team for the series to come as we scored our first ever Formula 1 points as a team driving as Tim Tramnitz. Yeah, our F3 driver icon was the one who scored our first points. As I mentioned at the end of the episode, a little bit sad that maybe Jenson Button didn't score the team's first points, but there are also bigger and better accolades and results that we're going to be aiming for with JB. Stepping on back into the career hub then on our way to round 3 of the season, we get an email with a performance update chart, so you can see how incredibly close things are from like Aston Martin to Kick Sauber. That entire midfield pack, there's like nothing to split them, and it's very similar for the top 4, but there's a big gulf difference there, so it really is like a Formula A and Formula B at the moment, and you can see we're not too far away. If you look at how close things are in that midfield, I think it's a case of right now, even though we're technically the worst team on paper, at the circuits where I do well at, we can be in the mixer. But for example, this episode, Bahrain, I'm not expecting a lot because typically I've not been that quick around Bahrain. Surprisingly good progress in the first 2 rounds R&D wise, even though it hasn't felt like we've made a lot of progress. But I suppose now having to do research and development as 2 separate activities kind of makes everything feel longer, but in reality you are actually making a decent amount of progress, I guess, you know, based off that R&D chart. And so now we have, off the back of those first points of the season, we have 1 available training point for the owner area. I was tempted to start unlocking one of the starter perks for personnel or corporate, but instead I thought, let's make use of the head start we have on the engineering side. You know, we picked the backstory of being an ex-engineer or being an engineering mind owner, and so that gave us that already, you know, additional perk on engineering. So let's bury into that, and I've decided to go with the perk that gives you additional R&D when a development fails, because we've had quite a fair few development failures so far, so I felt like it'd be useful to have extra R&D coming in when those failures happen. But you actually have to go ahead and train yourself. You have to train the owner in the activity timeline with the program that you've purchased. So I don't get that perk yet. There's not enough time from the last Grand Prix into the next one in the actual calendar in-game to do that training to get that perk. So we're going to have to wait until the next episode to maybe get that perk in. So right now, any failures won't give us extra R&D. Once we do that training, it will though, and that's going to be quite useful, I think, because I think you're about to see coming up, actually, we have another development that fails in terms of the pending upgrades we've all got going on. So, you know, it was complete vindication basically straight off the bat. So we've had a couple of parts that have finished research. We're developing them now. We've still got some being researched as well. And we're hitting a bit of a bottleneck, of course, with our facilities where we can only do 1 research at a time for each department, aero, engine, and chassis. But it's slow but steady progress, and actually more progress than the AI, technically, if you look at that R&D chart at the start there. And just now showing you also there is parity between Tramnitz and JB. They've both got 3 of the extra new upgrades that we've had and developed since the start of the season. 2 pending in research right now, and I think 1 being developed at the moment. So it's coming through. It's like a nice little trickle, and to be fair, we're actually building up some R&D points. We've got over 2,000 R&D points, which is pretty significant, I feel like, but obviously we can't use a lot of them right now because of the facility constraints. I feel like on this year's game, they've maybe reworked it where you might find yourself, you know, with a bank of R&D points, but you can't spend them necessarily because you need to have the facility upgrade. So it's kind of a different way that the amount of cash and R&D you have is going to work compared to previous games where, you know, 2,000 R&D points, you'd be splurging that straight away. Whereas now we're having to be patient as you would be in real life because things are still being worked on, and it's kind of a long-term project sort of thing. So definitely feel like it's been slowed down a little bit in that area of the game. As having made a couple of purchases and putting on some development, we're now ready to go in towards the third round of this season, the Bahrain Grand Prix. As I said before, not expecting a lot because I'm not that great around Bahrain. Typically, also, I found on previous F1 games, the AI are really competitive at Bahrain, and the My Team car itself has never been that great around here. So let's see. It's obviously a new game, new handling, new eye, different AI. So let's see how they go. But for this one, we're once again going to swap to the other side of the cockpit and drive as Jenson Button. It was a fun time out with Tim Tramnitz, and we will be driving as him once again in a future episode. But right now, I'm liking just swapping between the two. But there might be select Grand Prix where I choose to drive as Jenson like 2 times in a row, for example. Like, let's say if it falls on the race before the British Grand Prix and then into the British Grand Prix, obviously makes sense to drive as Jenson. Last time out, the strategy of hoping Jenson as an AI would perform really well didn't work out exactly, but he wasn't on the best strategy. So I like to see how it plays out again at a different race where maybe has a better strategy. But for now, we're heading into Bahrain driving as JB.
Well, as the sun goes down, the speeds go up. It's almost time to get underway for this shootout for the fastest time and the best possible grid position for tomorrow's race. Let's get on with it. It's qualifying for the Bahrain Grand Prix.
All right, get ready to jump out if you get too hot in there. There's a problem with the cooling system and it's going to take us a few minutes to correct it.
So a slight delay to our qualifying start with a cooling system fault. No problem, just a minute and a half there, so not too much time lost as we start our first flying lap. And I've got to say, by the way, Bahrain, along with every single night race on this game that we're about to play in this series, looks gorgeous. I said this in my video where I was, uploading just a raw gameplay video with the Ultra Max graphics and path tracing. I'm obviously still running that in every single video I'm going to be doing on F125, so you'll notice it everywhere, that anytime we come to a night race especially, yeah, the game just really comes even more alive than it already is graphically, I would say, on PC here with path tracing. As we now finish our first flying lap, that hasn't felt like the quickest one around here, I can't lie, but still getting used to the car. Every track we come to this season will be the first time we come to it on this game with this specific car. And especially at tracks like Bahrain, where it's not my strongest ever, it's always going to be that little bit harder to get on pace, maybe get into a rhythm, as you're seeing now, just gaining time everywhere, really. There's no specific one spot or, area. It's really just everything. The braking, mid-corner apex, exit as well, just getting in a flow and rhythm as we just slowly gain time everywhere around the lap, from 2/10 in the first sector up to now 8/10 as we get into sector 3. It's green, taking as much curb as we can get away with on the inside and then the outside. Right now we're P21, Tramnitz in 22, so maybe the My Team car, this aarava Archer racing car, is just not doing as well around Bahrain as it did maybe in Suzuka, and even more so in Australia, obviously, in qualifying trim, as we gain over a second to go up to P16, which I'm pretty damn happy with, but there are still laps to come. But very awkwardly, because I went on that second lap in the middle of the session, I don't have enough time for a third flying lap, so I'm kind of in an awkward position where I might be going down the order now and definitely not making it through into Q2. Tramnitz may not be doing the same because he gets blocked by a Mercedes at the start of his lap, and then, lo and behold, he gets overtaken on the inside by one of the Ferraris. I thought he was maybe on an in-lap. He's on his flyer, and the Ferrari rudely overtakes him, and he finishes up. No wonder he's in last place with a flying lap like that with 10 seconds to go. So clearly not a great day in the office for this team around the Bahrain Grand Prix. It's a great day, or a great start to the day for George Russell after 2 DNFs in a row, kicking off this qualifying day with a P1, but obviously the business end is still to come in Q2 and Q3, but we won't be seeing any of it as both myself and Tramnitz are knocked out. P20 and 22, it's not unexpected, to be honest, because you already saw we went back a little bit in qualifying in Japan because that circuit needs more downforce, and then again at Bahrain, it's a power circuit, and also you need good downforce, you need good brakes. It's one of those circuits that's really tough, and you get really caught out if the car isn't that great. It's hard to outdrive the car around Bahrain, I always find, and here's the example then. So it has looked like over qualifying we've been going backwards from that first race, but I think that was more of a case of Australia street circuit. As I said, it's easier to make that difference. And also the first race of the season, you know, cobwebs from winter break, you know, drivers not performing at their maximum, not fully focused, the AI, so you're gonna get a little bit jeopardy in that first race always, whereas now it's shaking out a bit more. And that's why, you know, getting those points in Japan is so crucial, because it's not guaranteed we do it again or anytime soon again. Case in point, today from P20, I'm not that confident we can get in the points. I'm confident we can have some good racing maybe and get stuck in, but whether points are on the cards, that's going to be a bit of miracle work. Let's see. Let's go to Sunday.
The stage is set for another enthralling race here in the Kingdom of Bahrain. A Ferrari stronghold in years gone by. Will they be able to add to their record today? So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Hamilton, Oscar Piastri, and Russell, Tsunoda, Sainz, Antonelli, and Esteban Ocon, Fernando Alonso, Gasly, Lance Stroll, and Behrman, Bortoletto, Hadjar, Nico Hulkenberg, and Alex Albon, Doohan, Button, Lawson, and Tim Tramnitz rounds off the grid. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway. And alongside me here today in the commentary box, Anthony Davidson. I know what we've got to do before the start of today's race, but what about our driver? What do the final hours look like for them?
Well, for them, you know, you've got your pre-race rituals that you go through. You see different drivers that, you know, some have got their headphones on, they're listening to the music. Some drivers really absorb the energy from the crowd and they're there waving to them. Other drivers, they go within themselves. They chat to their engineers, absorbing that information, that vital information that you need to carry you through the race. And, you know, those pre-race rituals are essential to making things systematic. We do a lot of Grand Prix in a season, and the more systematic you can be, the easier you are within that environment.
We're going to be starting on the shock horror medium tyre, just to leave ourselves once again open as we continue to learn more about this game, more about the tyre wear, specifically about this car's tyre wear and the lack thereof of the performance of it. Definitely one of the first upgrades I'll be doing when that part of the chassis area unlocks is the tyre upgrade, because it will then help us actually get track position in situations. But for now, it seems like it's going to be a two-stop either way, though, just like in Japan. So it may not matter, actually, about our tyre wear. It's just about the compounds we choose, because you can either go aggressive if you've got the car for it, because there was a suggested hard to two softs, which is the strategy I think Tramnitz is on by default as my AI teammate. But I've chosen mediums, and I think I'm going to use all three compounds, going from medium to hard to soft. I think, unlike in the Japanese Grand Prix, the hard tyre actually might low-key be the best race tyre around here. It has been in the past. So I'm looking forward to going to that one. And then the soft, I mean, there's quite a lot of soft tyre runners at the start of this race. So hopefully, unlike in Japan, there's a bit of pace there to actually use at the end. But we shall see. This first in, though, just trying to get one over any of the hard tyre runners around us and trying to see if we can do anything to vault ourselves up from 20th place as we go to 5 red lights for the Bahrain Grand Prix. It's a slow getaway for Albon ahead of us on the soft compounded tyre. We get boxed in slightly because Doohan had an equally good start compared to us, and so we have really nowhere to go, and we're still very much boxed in as it's very pedestrian into turn one. We take matters into our own hands and try and swing around the outside of Doohan and Albon, and on the exit of that complex of opening corners, it's going to be 3 wide, Doohan on the inside and Albon further to the inside. 3 wide immediately in sector 1, you know, and we get up into P18. We book in that double overtake. Very quick thinking from us to go on the outside as everyone was going very single file and going kind of, no, after you. But we've got a radio call early on about the engine wear and the ICEs over 50%. That's my bad. I didn't really pay attention too much to the wear of the engine components, so that's going to hinder us a little bit in this race, I can't lie, because it is a power circuit, so we are going to feel that, as well as the ERS. I think this track, compared to Japan, compared to Australia especially, this is going to be a real test of our ERS management and how good this car can manage ERS and harvest it back, for example, because this track eats battery, because you want to be on it so much because of the, you know, so many straights and slower corners you come out of, as Verstappen is being hounded by Oscar Piastri. Behind him, Sainz attacking Antonelli, so the Williams looking a bit more racier around Bahrain for sure. But look at that, aggressive moves between Verstappen, Piastri and Russell whilst we get overtaken. It's 3 wide, and again, and again. Look at that, Sainz, Antonelli and Stroll side by side, and then behind them, Ocon versus Gasly versus Hadjar. 3 separate 3-wide fights on the same straight. Insanity as the fighting still continues between Verstappen and Russell now, as we look to catch Behrman napping. It's a big lunge, it's a bit desperate. Behrman comes for the switchback and undercuts the racing line, but we're going to commit on the outside and get the overtake. But how incredible was that? So if you were still wondering about the AI, that may be the best illustration. Yellow flags, Bortoletto's had an issue. It's an AI mistake as well on the same lap. It is all kicking off. Yep, I think that's your best indication, people. That never would have happened on F1 24. 3 separate 3-wide moments. It's so early in the race on heavy fuel. DRS only just now activated, of course. Let's look at a replay, because we need to see all 3 of these battles. So Piastri versus Verstappen. Russell comes in and makes it a 3-car fight. Piastri finds himself at the end of the straight in the middle of those two and ends up in the worst position because he gets boxed in by 2 of the most aggressive drivers going when they're fighting people for, you know, desperate places. Russell and Verstappen pinching Piastri from either side, and then they're having a squabble of their own. The Mercedes down the inside trying to use the soft tyres to good use. Verstappen, though, trying his best to wrestle the Red Bull. He's done so well so far this season with 2 wins in a row, of course, and he's going to continue to try and maximise positions, but clearly the Red Bull looks a bit slower around Bahrain than it ever did around Suzuka and Australia on this game, as this is the second 3-wide battle. Sainz versus Antonelli versus Lance Stroll, of all people, on the inside, Antonelli on the outside. But again, the man in the middle gets pinched out here. Sainz has to back out, and then it's Antonelli versus Stroll on the exit. Look at the aggression going on, and the overspeed for Antonelli. It's just wonderful to see. It's wonderful to see, like, Kimi there. Oh, and he makes an error. Look at that. He gets a power slide on as well. That's unbelievable. So not only did he was 3 wide, he then had the onus to immediately switch from left to right across underneath Stroll's rear wing to try and make a move. Then he made a mistake getting too much power on. And then here we've got the third 3-wide moment. Ocon, Hadjar, Gasly. So the 2 former teammates. This time, though, Ocon's in the middle and he doesn't get squeezed out. So there's a bit of difference there as well to the fight. Ocon in the middle actually manages to hang on, and it's Hadjar on the inside that gets screwed over because Hülkenberg then makes the overtake on him. And then there's our battle with Ollie Behrman. And honestly, my battle with Behrman seems the most timid one out of the lot. The AI on AI battles was way more aggressive and on it into turn 1 for sure, and then afterwards. And then obviously we had to cap it all off, an AI mistake at the end of that sequence with Bortoletto spinning it at the hairpin. Wow. Just wow. That you guys know, I said it many times in F1 24 videos. I was praying For 12 months, I've been praying that we could return to some fun-looking AI that race you, but also race each other, so that you can actually watch the races back with interest, that you guys can watch this series with interest, that it doesn't have to be always a necessarily, banger race for me, because we can also be entertained by the AI. We can get immersed in these battles and, lose ourselves in the immersion of this battle, and Verstappen, Piastri having another squabble. Piastri will finally overtake Verstappen, that is, so the Red Bulls down the order behind both McLarens, both Ferraris and one Mercedes, as we look to try and get a move on Hadjar. Albon sniffing around our rear end, but can we get the move on the Frenchman before the Williams gets a chance to overtake us? We make Hadjar go defensive to the inside. We've gone the long way round, but Hadjar at the moment has that initial grip on the soft compound and is, he fully shuts the door. I mean, fair play. Absolutely slammed it. We had no room to work with there. And so that was a missed opportunity. I think we could have done better there to get the overtake. And now, Albon's past us. I'm not going to put up much of a fight against the Williams, because from Sainz being in P10 fighting a Merc briefly on lap 2, it's clear Williams have definitely taken a step up in this this specific circuit. Maybe just suits them a little bit more than it did Suzuka in Australia, in the game at least, because they're definitely looking a bit punchier. As behind us, it is Behrman versus Doohan. Doohan down the inside. Behrman maybe slipping down to P19 as we now look at our engine. It's getting quite hot, and I'm noticing I'm losing quite a fair bit of time on some of these straights. One, because I've not got too much battery. Like I said, you use a lot of battery around Bahrain. This is a starter my team car, so our ERS upgrades are 0. So we're draining battery very quickly. But also, I think my worn engine is now overheating my engine, and I'm really feeling that. And it seems a lot more apparent than the previous, even 2-3 F1 games. So maybe that's a thing to look into. Maybe engine wear on this year's game really overheats the engine, and that really affects the top line speed, because we're getting mugged off now versus Doohan. Sells passes. Obviously, the DRS is helping, and the DRS is very powerful on the game, anyways, for the last, 6 million years, basically. The DRS is a lot more powerful always than it is in real life. But we also just don't have that much, defensive tools. I can use battery, yeah, but then I'm going to get, absolutely mugged off later in the circuit as we're fighting Behrman, because I thought if we just keep letting them all by, then what's the point? So I put up more of a fight versus Behrman, because we have had the measure of Ollie in some previous races, but Behrman capitalizes on my mistake there as we get the rear end stepping out. It's another moment of aggression from an AI we're fighting as Behrman tries his hardest to keep his foot in, but we just managed to defend that for another day. But yeah, the pace is not looking amazing at the moment, and we are fighting and losing the battle for P18 maybe here at the moment. So it's maybe a long way from points today, but we're going to keep fighting the good fight and seeing what we can do still, trying to maximize everything. And then as we go on through this Grand Prix, we've only done 7 laps and we've had so much action. I'm going to very much keep you, in check with the action up front with any of the AI battles, because they seem absolutely on it today, more so than even the first 2 episodes. But it's been pretty damn good, all 3 in this series so far, as Behrman looking for the overtake. But we are now actually starting to catch back to Doohan, maybe because he's feeling now a bit of tire wear on his mediums, and more so he's being held up by Hadjar. And so we catch Jack napping a little bit behind the soft tyre runner that is clearly struggling now for tyre wear. And we're up into P17. Opportunistic dive bomb, but Doohan also, to be fair, is maybe sleeping a little bit, because Behrman now is going to go for a move, and Hadjar makes a mistake. Big moment for Hadjar. He just about keeps the car going in a straight line, but it looks like it's not just me having traction issues at that corner exit. Obviously, Bahrain, one of the new LiDAR circuits, so the undulation at that specific part of the circuit is so much more apparent and so much more challenging now for not only you, but clearly, evidently, the AI as well. And it's really great to see just lifelike driving there with a few little twitches and, you know, more nervous rear ends, and they're not just kind of planted to the floor like they were on last year's game. As Hajar does peel in, I feel like there was an opportunity missed there to overtake him at some point, but it is what it is. And now we focus on Doohan coming at us, and we're going to try and block him into Russell, playing a little bit of a dangerous game there. I feel like in real life that really would have been a telling off from the FIA, as we give Doohan the good old Schumacher squeeze, that is, from Hungary. 2010, was it? The squeeze on his old pal Barrichello. Well, Doohan, obviously, as a little kid, familiar with Schumacher as a presence in his life, so he gave him the good old Schumacher squeeze into Russell there. Bit of a aggressive game to try and keep this position, just for the sake of pride, if anything, because if we're not going to get points, I want to try and keep everything that we can. And, you know, to be fair, Doohan's not a stranger to that. Remember China in real life? He fought tooth and nail, even though he had a penalty, just to prove he could, you know, defend some people. So I guess that's what we're doing here, proving that we can keep some of these cars behind, despite not having the out-and-out performance. As unfortunately, I didn't plan this, but we double stacked with Tramnitz, and the biggest finesse ever. Did you notice? We blocked Hulkenberg. So I just got a free position on Nico Hulkenberg because I unintentionally came in on the same lap as Tramnitz, and he blocked Hulkenberg at his pit box. So we've gained one position. We're up to P19 then on the road. It won't matter. We're on the hards. Doohan's chosen another set of mediums, so he's gone past us, and I won't put up too much of a fight because right now there's no point fighting him. I am adamant I'll find Doohan later in this race when I'm on the softs maybe, but at the moment Hulkenberg is also flying past us, and to be honest, I can't be mad. We obviously screwed him over in the pit lane, so fair plays, but the pace isn't looking that great. We're P20, but let's ignore that for a sec. Let's talk about the rest of this race. Lando Norris and McLaren actually looking competent now for once. 6 seconds ahead of the next car, which is surprisingly the Ferrari. Leclerc second place. Russell up to third. So he's jumped Hamilton in the pit stop phase. Piastri P5. It's Antonelli and Sainz P6 and 7. Or Sainz was 7. Now Verstappen trying to get through into 7th place, but the Red Bull, who has won 2 races to kick off this series and season, is fighting the Williams now all of a sudden. So yeah, Red Bull clearly getting a reality check of their own today around Bahrain, and Williams actually having a bit more performance like they should be, like in real life we're seeing today, with Sainz doing a great job. Gasly as well, by the way, again cooking in the Alpine in the top 10 like he did in Suzuka, as the 2 Astons having a squabble out of the points, as we now try to settle into a rhythm. And I'm not going to lie, this next phase of the Grand Prix, nothing really happens for us apart from lap 15 to lap 21. I just get into a tunnel vision groove where I'm following Hulkenberg. I use all his racing lines. I'm able to save ERS and lift off and coast and save it into some corners, then use it strategically, getting DRS of Nico. And straight away, lap 16, having a car to follow, I set my new PB in this Grand Prix on the hards here in the middle of this stint. So honestly, I've said this before to you guys, I'm someone who, I definitely go quicker when I have someone to chase. I do very badly when I'm out in the lead and I've got no one to aim for. So even now, you know, we're obviously not going to be aiming for a win or points or whatever, but even just following Hulkenberg is improving my race here. Because we go to lap 20 and all of a sudden we're running P7 and 8, obviously yet to pit, but the pace has been decent and Hulkenberg has been dragging me along in the Grand Prix. Elsewhere, Lando, he's already made his stop. Hamilton is only just coming in now for Ferrari. Russell, I think he's coming already. I think Leclerc's still yet to pit. Ocon, Hulkenberg and myself all yet to pit. So that's why us 3 are in the points at the moment. Obviously, then it will be Antonelli, Verstappen, Sainz, Gasly, Albon. That will be your kind of bottom top 10 fight and framing, or I suppose it'll be Tsunoda really that'll be catching up to Albon at any point soon. Is Bortoleto, oh no, Gabriel Bortoleto, he had a mistake earlier. Well, his race has ended a little bit prematurely here, 2/3 of the way through. He's parked up with an engine failure. Won't be a safety car or anything like that, but we are going to be coming in anyway at the same time as Hulkenberg, mirroring the pit stop as well as the stint. That was a really strong, consistent, hard stint. And I've got to thank Nico, the man I screwed over in the pits unintentionally. I've got to thank him as we come in now, and I guess it's going to be F1 karma. Great, F1 karma there. That's karma for me screwing over Hulkenberg, isn't it, earlier, as we lose 2 seconds in the pit stops, and that allows Doohan, I did say we'd see him again, that's allowed Doohan to get ahead of us. We should have been right there with Hulkenberg on the back of whoever he's on the back of. But now I've got all the work to do to catch up and overtake Doohan before I even get a chance to have a go at Hadjar. But we're seeing all the familiar names of cars we couldn't finish the overtake on, or we had to let by earlier in the race. But now it's our turn to have some fun as we go from left to right. An uber aggressive switch across the circuit behind Jack Doohan to get into P19. It'll be 18 now as Behrman makes his pit stop. So now we set our sights on Hadjar, but we should already be past him. We should be where Hulkenberg is. He's going for Liam Lawson, but I've got to stop mentioning it because what's done is done. We've lost the time in the pit stops. Instead now let's focus on, well, this aggressive little move and a bit of fun from me to get down the inside of Isaac Hadjar and get up to P17 as Lewis Hamilton sets the fastest lap. So you got to say Ferrari as well as McLaren looking a lot better around Bahrain than they did in the first 2 races, as Hulkenberg overtakes Lawson now on lap 25 to get up into P15, and he might be aiming for Lance Stroll, and I'm hoping we could maybe, aim towards there as well. No points, but I think from P20, and considering the lack of pace we've had, P14, 15 wouldn't be too bad. Oh, that's a slow Alonso. That's a slow Alonso. Alonso's retiring now. Well, his protege, Bortoletto, retired earlier with an engine failure. And like manager, like driver, as Alonso retires as well, as lap 25 at the end of that same lap, it's Sainz versus Antonelli. The Williams is having a go at the Works Mercedes team, the customer. Williams looking to get up into P7 as we watch Antonelli and Sainz side by side from a cockpit view into turn 1. Sainz slams on the brakes, tries to get the elbows out. Will Kimi have to concede? Yes, he will. He's down to P8, and Gasly now maybe sniffing around, So Kimi, one of the 5 rookies on this year's F1 grid, maybe feeling the tyre wear more so than his teammate, who's doing a great job in no man's land in P4. Piastri, I gotta say there, disappointing P5. It's a shame his driver rating doesn't reflect how good he's been in real life at the moment. I hope that he gets an update very soon because he deserves to be right up there on the F1 game with Lando, based off the real life season, as we see Gasly going for a move on the Mercedes. So yeah, Kimi, unfortunately, he is really struggling on tyres, it would seem, and Gasly being opportunistic and again dragging that Alpine to ridiculous heights, considering Doohan's in P18 and he's up here in P9. Just showing the midfield battle. It is so bloody tight, as Antonelli does repass him, to be fair. It's so bloody tight that the driver can make that difference, We've seen that. We're seeing that with Alpine. We're seeing that with Mercedes, really, with the difference of Russell and Antonelli. And as well, the Red Bull, Verstappen, Tsunoda, the driver can make a massive difference, which is why I think you're seeing that big difference when we step into Tramnitz's shoes, step into Button's shoes. As the player, I feel like it's geared towards you making that difference when you drive as one of your drivers. So I think it's going to be hard to always, see that level playing field between the teammates of your My Team career mode, as Gasly now having... He was the hunter, he's now the hunted, as Tsunoda catching him on the last lap. So the Alpine may have just used all its tyres at the wrong time there, and all of a sudden he's gone from fighting for P8 to now having to settle for 1 championship point. But I would take an arm and a leg for 1 point today, because it's been a very quiet last stint after overtaking Hadjar and doing, you know, we had a little go on Lawson, but the soft tyre is going to start going off for us, and so on to the last lap. Lawson coming at us at a rate of knots. We've only got about 20% battery. I didn't put up much of a fight because I thought I could actually re-overtake Lawson at some point later on this lap, but I didn't realize how cooked my tyres were maybe at this point, and the engine at this point has taken a battering, as it's going to be, though, Lando Norris on the sharp end, getting off the mark, winning at the Bahrain Grand Prix. He's broken the streak for Max Verstappen, and Ferrari, really strong podium, double podium for them, 2 and 3. Big performance for them today, as Lawson has a lock-up. That invited me in. I thought, okay, this is it. We can make an overtake. Alas, I just don't have that straight line speed because of that engine wear. I think that engine wear and the overheating engine has really hurt me. You don't know, I didn't notice it at the start of stints because the tyre wear is there, you know, the grip is there. But at the end of stints, when there's no grip there, we're also lacking in battery department. It was really apparent that I need to next time pay attention to the engine wear, because it really hurt this time, a lot more than previous F1 games, which is a good thing now. It gives us one more thing to worry about, but we need to be wary of that for both our drivers. Remember, we need to be wary about that, managing for both components. But it's a so-so race, P16. We won't remember this race in the future, but it's a good bit of learning about the tyre wear, about the engine wear, and it was great to see the amazing AI battles today out front.
Here's the checkered flag, and our winner has Landoed. It's Lando Norris for victory.
They led from lights out to the flag at the end, and their race victory was never in doubt, was it? Brilliant stuff.
Maybe this is finally the start of some proper IRL McLaren performances here in the game after that, you know, very surprising double win for Verstappen from Australia to Japan. Lando gets off the mark, just waiting for Piastri to really arrive, and we'll see how the Ferraris go. Maybe here in the game they can be a bit more performative than they are in real life. For us as a team, we slip down the order because Williams scored really big today. Alpine gets 1 point, I think, in the end with Gasly, and so we're level on points with, I think it's VCarb, I believe, with 2 points apiece. Kick Sauber, the only team not to score, but they score one great race and they're level on points with us and VCarb. So it's very tight already, and it's only been 3 races, but still plenty to go in this season, and this one was definitely just an episode of learning for us, but still very enjoyable, like I said. And if you guys did enjoy those great AI battles, then be sure to hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, and you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.